Welcome to the Peerless YouTube channel. I am Caitie North, and this is our fourth class in our flower series, A Rose. And this one is for Dalton's mom. Happy Mother's Day. And yeah, definitely a classic shape on a rose, but we're doing that kind of, actually this one right here. So it's got kind of that orange and yellow and a little bit of pink in there. So definitely classic shape with a little bit more funky of a color. And I think it turns out really beautiful. So I hope you enjoy it. For your supplies, you'll be needing Peerless Watercolors, watercolor brush and paper, a paint palette. I'm using a ceramic one today. What else? Extra small detail brush, pencil, scissors, double-sided tape, a rose reference photo, and a light box or a window or a rose drawing. So I wanted to talk to you guys too while we're getting ready and setting up this painting. The way that I got these pictures is usually I just go online and kind of find a reference photo that I like, but I really wanted to use fresh flowers, and you know, who loves an excuse not to have fresh flowers in their home? So I actually got fresh flowers, took photos of them, and then did some of the sketches that are available for you guys by myself, and then some of them I actually took the photo and did a tracing of the photo for the design, basically. So this one is actually from a photo, and I'll put it onto the side here so you can see it and use it as a reference photo. But I really wanted to get it as realistic as possible, and having a reference photo with a tracing that you know exactly where all those shadows are going is a really easy way to start drawing and painting if you're not comfortable sketching. So I'll show you the little photo that I used, and then you'll be able to see like pretty much the outline follows it pretty much exactly. And yeah, if you're not comfortable drawing, this is a really easy way for you to paint anything that you want. So yeah, hope that little tip helps. And for this paint palette, we're using bubblegum pink, chrome yellow, brilliant yellow, and mixed berry for the petals, and then myrtle green. And then I do add some dark green and amber yellow if you would like to add those now. Okay, so now that we have our palette made and our drawing onto our watercolor paper, the thing that I noticed most about this flower in particular is that there's no Peerless color that perfectly matches it. And this one I am trying to get very, very, very close to realistic as possible. And it's kind of this like yellow to orange, which we have been doing in a lot of the other flower series for the flowers. But it also has this really cool kind of pink color. And I don't know if you can see it really like as much as I can in real life versus the video for you guys, but it just has like a touch of pink in it. So I'm making my darkest, middle, and lightest tones of this color, and I'm making quite a bit of it just because I don't want to have to remix it, and I want there to be a uniform color for each tone in the flower. So most of them are chrome yellow heavy, and then kind of mixed with the bubblegum pink, and then a little bit of the mixed berry for the darkest one, and then you want pretty much a lighter kind of chrome yellow with a little bit of pink, and then yellow as well. So when you start your painting, you're gonna work from your lightest chrome yellow and bubblegum pink and that brilliant yellow puddle, and then just barely add with the wet on wet technique where those shadows will begin the very first time. And again, I'll put the reference photo somewhere where you can still see the paint too. So with this one, we are going to be using the kind of wet on wet technique, but doing each individual flower petal, just so they kind of get their own little transition of color, the way that they, you know, from their dark to the light areas, and letting the water like decide how it's going to, how it's going to fade. And you can use it a little bit and take all the paint off your brush, and you can blend it out that way if you want to kind of blend certain areas a little bit more, but really letting the water do it. I think it just makes a really soft blend between the dark and the light for a lot of the petals of this. And then yeah, just working around. If you're looking at the reference photo again, make sure like if you know the areas is super dark and there's a super light next to it, before you start that next petal, you either want the one next to it to be completely dry, or work in that circular pattern again, or a spiral pattern to kind of like make sure you're not working next like two wet petals next to each other and you're trying to keep that one dark and that one light. Just kind of like right now. So like right now I'm kind of keeping those. I see my reference photo and I want all of those to stay super, super bright, almost only brilliant yellow. And this way I'm just gonna see exactly where all of those lightest petals are. And then as they're dry, I can work a really heavy and dark, like, you know, darker orangey pinky color next to it. And those have to be nice and crisp and sharp. And I know that they're going to be, you know, they're not gonna get bled into darker tones in there. So yeah, and then working on to the next one, and you could definitely see it's just really pretty and kind of that lighter yellow on the bottom. So this one's super heavy with the wet on wet technique, darker on the top, lighter on the bottom, and then kind of mixing those puddles that I mixed of each tone, adding a touch of green in the bottom while it's still wet, so it kind of like fans into it a little bit. And now working back to the top petals again. Now that some of those are a little bit dry, I can put that light area right next to that dark petal and working in that kind of circular motion again. So just working around the flower, I'm using that first and second and that middle tone, kind of filling in around the lightest areas of those petals and doing some individual petals. So oh, thank you, honey. Yeah. That was very sweet, bud. Bye. And that was really cute. We're gonna probably keep that in the video. That was true. Just making his, you know, haven't seen him in a while, so I guess he wanted to say hi to you guys. But going back, we're just doing that middle tone and working with those individual petals, but not getting too crazy about making like a really strong definition between light and dark, because you will be coming back and doing a second wash and a third wash of those darker shadows as well. So definitely make sure you do your lightest areas this round and the beginning of your middle tones, but don't worry about your dark tones. Okay, so now that we have that first and second tones down, we are now going to use that darkest tone that we mixed in the beginning and kind of start layering our shadows. So again, looking at our reference photos, I feel like I made those first two petals a little bit too dark, and I think I'd do maybe right now or maybe a little bit later. I go back and kind of lift them out with a paper towel, but if you just don't make them that dark in the beginning, you won't have to do that. So yeah, just going back and forth, reference photo to painting, adding that another layer of the middle tone, and then in a few places adding that third tone to build out your shadows. we've got those first and second layers down on our roses. We are going to let those dry, and as those are drying, we're going to do our first layer of green, and I am mixing myrtle green, dark green, and a little bit of amber, and just doing kind of a solid wash of green all over all of the stems and all of the little extra leaves and the bottom leaves that kind of come up from the stem. And not worried about the details too much right now because we will go back and add those again later in a second wash. But right now just filling in mostly all of the green and yeah, getting it nice and solid and wet on wet in a couple different tones. But again, not worried about details. We will add those later. And for our final wash of the shadows in the flower, we are going to go back to our paint palette and use the darkest kind of color that we mixed with the bubblegum pink, the chrome orange, and the mixed berry for our darkest tone. And we are going to place in those very deepest, darkest shadows, which are just basically in the deepest part of the folds and kind of outlining exactly where those shadows are, the inside of those petals. One thing that I did not like about the painting directly before this is that I went a little too crazy with the shadows. So on this one, I kind of learned from my mistake and was a little bit less, crazy, a little less wild with my shadows and just placed them exactly where I wanted them, like in the reference photo. So yeah, little, as you're going, you're always learning, it's just great because I actually only did this flower once for this tutorial. So I probably, if I were to do it again, I probably would learn like 5 more little tricks to tell you too. So if you don't get it the first time, I would just keep working on it, and the way that I explain things might not make sense this time, but if you're doing another tutorial, be like the way I explained it that time, you're like, oh, it clicks, that's the way that I like to do it, and that makes sense to me. So it should just be fun. There's no right or wrong, it's just painting, amazing stress reliever, just, some personal time, even if it's only 10 minutes and you're not doing a detailed painting, but, whatever you're doing it for somebody else, for Mother's Day, or for yourself. And yeah, I hope that it's just makes your day a little bit brighter and more colorful. Just kidding. So this is actually the final wash. I said the shadows were the final wash on the flower, but this is the actual final wash of color on the flower. We are doing the translucent veins. So you're using that middle tone or even the lightest tone, but you're making sure it's like diluted with water so it's more translucent as it dries. And you're just trying to make those as tiny little as possible veins, just to give it those little, you see them, especially when it's a little bit of an older flower, you get some of those darker veins, which I think they're so cool. They add a really cool texture, and they make it look a little bit more realistic. So just super translucent, light lines coming out from the center, and just kind of like, like a lightning strike, just kind of coming out from the center ones and a few going out that way. And just kind of all the way around, and then we will be working on the second and third layers of the leaves next. So we'll be working back with the green. So again, looking at our reference photo and mixing some of the dark green, maybe a little bit of the amber yellow. Oh, and the mixed berry to make it a little bit deeper. we are going to be putting the deeper tones in the kind of shadows, just to build out those shadows. So don't worry about the details again just as much, but just making sure all of the darker areas of the leaves get that second layer between the dark green and kind of mixed with that mixed berry to make it a few levels darker. And then the next wash, we will be doing the details. I'm doing a few veins for the details on the outer leaves, the ones closest to you. Yeah, pretty simple. Looking at the reference photo, I don't do too detailed on these, but just enough. You let the flower be the focal point. And then we'll be going to my favorite, the white highlights. And as skinny as possible, tiny, tiny, tiny bits, just along the very edges. And just to kind of make that sharp, crisp line between the lightest and the darkest areas, help kind of pop out that individual petals. So getting pretty close to the end. I'll make sure to add a photo. And yeah, I cannot wait to see your photos. Thank you for sticking it out with me. And can't wait to see your paintings, I should say, not photos. But I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening or whatever is your painting. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and we will see you next time.